I'm Matt Miller.
And I'm Hannah Elliott, and this is Hot Pursuit.
All right, today on the show, as it is nearly the end of the year, we decided to do our winners and losers for 2023. We both put together kind of lists. I think they're slightly different in form, but that's good. How do you want to do this, Hannah?
You should say your winners, and I say my winners, and then you say your losers, and I say my losers.
So the one winner that I kind of just thought about today when I was driving over here is South Korean automotive conglomerate that I think has made such an impact on at least American consumers in 2023 that it's notable, and that is Hyundai and Kia.
Ooh.
I'm not sure exactly how they're connected. I know that Hyundai owns like a 33% stake in Kia, and Kia owns various stakes in Hyundai subsidiaries. But suffice it to say, they're a group, right? So
And Genesis. Don't forget Genesis.
And they have Genesis too. That's a Hyundai subsidiary in which Kia has a stake. But
yes.
So, I just heard about the hype surrounding the Telluride last year, and this year it's just like finally people have started to be able to buy them because the wait list was almost a year last year. Plus, there is the EV6, which Kia makes. I always confuse. One makes the EV6, I think, and the other one makes the Ioniq 5.
Yes,
right?
yes.
Those are the two hot hatch electric vehicles that are just, amazing. I've driven the Kia version. I prefer the look of the Hyundai version. They're mechanically the same under the skin. They're awesome.
Yeah.
Especially for the price. Because you can get in at like $45,000 and have an amazing, super fast time. The GT, I wish it had wider wheels. There are things I would change, but it's so fast that it made a friend of mine throw up.
Do you think, okay, that's impressive. Do you think that the interiors stand up better than like big three type vehicles on the same level in terms of quality?
Well, I don't know in terms of quality. I am admittedly spoiled, and I like higher price cars.
Yeah.
Both to drive and to buy.
Nice things.
But I think, at that price point, the interior seemed awesome to me. It's not too much.
Yeah.
It's not a luxury car, and that's not what you expect of it. But I think the layouts were elegant, and I never had a problem figuring out how to use them. Plus, they have the EV9 coming out, which I think is universally accepted as the best 3-row EV that you're going to be able to buy.
Yes.
In any price point.
Drove it, loved it. Was really surprised.
Drove it. So
I drove it, shockingly, yeah, because we don't typically cover Kia and Hyundai on pursuits.
They're reaching on price, right?
They really are.
$65,000, I think.
Yes, yeah. And they did say, hey, look, we're going to kind of shoot for Rivian. We're going to kind of shoot for Volvo. Maybe some Land Rover crossover. So they are making no bones about the fact that they're ready to fight a little bit for consumers.
Yeah.
I was really pleasantly surprised. I thought it was great.
Well, and the logo change that Kia did wasn't this year, but I think all of these things combined just make it a huge 2023 winner. The logo, I think, allows the brand to be more aspirational than it was.
I agree.
Because it was an eco logo, and now it's super cool.
It's like 9 Inch Nails. I know I've said that before, but I can't unsee it. But it's true. That is a case of, sometimes logo rebrands don't go very well, but this one I think was great.
Right. And you mentioned Genesis. They make head-turning cars.
I know.
Just yesterday at the ShopRite parking lot, I saw a green, and I love any car maker that puts out a green, Genesis SUV, and I just turned around like, what's that?
Yeah.
Cool.
And everybody tells me that in Korea, that is really the status symbol car. And I don't think that's going to change. I think that's only going to increase.
And their quality has increased. The cars are fun to drive. They're affordable. The prices are rising, obviously. But, they're still fairly affordable considering the market. So I just think Hyundai Kia is just a huge winner in 2023.
I love it.
Yeah.
I love it. Okay, my top winner is not going to be a surprise to anyone. It's Ferrari. Everybody wants to be Ferrari. Of course, they are sold out until 2025. They've got wildly high margins. They've got resilient demand. They are doing pretty well in this economy, where some automakers like Mercedes and BMW are really susceptible to high interest rates and that sort of thing. Ferrari skims the top of that. They're kind of like Hermes. A lot of the analysis that I read from our intelligence side here at Bloomberg compares Ferrari to Hermes and a couple other high fashion brands like Brunello Cucinelli, just because of the fact that they're really hard to get. Their owners are not just affluent, but truly wealthy. They've raised sales guidance twice this year. Every analyst report says that every other automaker, especially Porsche, people are targeting Ferrari and they're actually not even close. It's just in a league of its own. I want to talk about the Purosangue.
I was just going to say. So the thing is, all the things you said about Ferrari could be said almost every year, right?
Yes, but
it's a huge winner in the stock market too.
Yep. This was a challenging year and it didn't really touch Ferrari at all.
But I think the one thing that Ferrari's done this year that's the most notable that even non-gearheads would know is they put out that
now
SUV.
No, first, Matt, I have to ask, have you driven it?
I have not driven it.
So what's the problem?
I have neither driven it nor have I seen it in real life.
Oh gosh.
I've only seen pictures of it.
Okay, all right.
But the pictures I have seen, it is horrendous.
Let me ask you this. Do you think that you come off better in person or a photograph?
Definitely in person. And I that's why I make that a caveat. That's why I make it a caveat. Also, you've driven it, so you're going to have a better idea of it. And the specs alone, Lamborghini put out an SUV that really looks cool, but it's a disappointing powertrain, if I'm going to be honest.
The Urus?
Yeah.
You're kidding me.
No, you get the same powertrain in a Porsche or an Audi.
We haven't discussed this. I'm a big Urus fan. I thought it was fabulous. So fun and really captured the look. Unlike, I would agree with you, the Purosangue doesn't look great in the photographs that have been circulated. I do agree with you in that. But in person, it looks a bit better. But I will say Lamborghini did beat it on that point, that I think the Urus really captured the Lamborghini ethos better than Ferrari was able to do.
Love the Urus. I've driven it a bunch in Italy, in Germany, and here in New York.
Yeah.
I think the interior is sweet.
Yeah.
All of that is great.
It's awesome.
But guess what? I could say the same thing about a Cayenne. A Cayenne Turbo.
You would be this
amazing.
Excited. You'd be that excited about it.
But here's the thing. If we're going to talk about cars that I can't now afford and probably never will be able to afford anyway, it's we're talking about these myths, right? And to me, there has to be something extra about a Ferrari and a Lamborghini. A Cayenne and Audi using the same powertrain, it takes a little away for me of the Urus and Lamborghini. Will say, well, we made it our own. Fine. The point is, it's a turbocharged V8. Give me at least a 10, like a Huracan, or a 12, like Ferrari's done. So I applaud them for at least doing that.
We'll see next year how sales go. I don't disagree with you. It doesn't photograph great, but in person...
You've seen the meme.
Yeah, of course.
It looks so much like the Mazda MX-30 from the side.
I didn't want to say it, but it does. But honestly, having driven it and photographed it extensively in person, it does look better in person, and it is fun to drive. So.
All right. So I look forward to checking it out.
Great.
It's cool no matter what. Anyway, I have a winner that you previously would have disagreed with me on, but I think I'm winning you over. And I think the American buying public is being won over as well. Hybrids. I've loved hybrids since the i3 and the i8 of BMW. They came with range extenders. They were electric cars that came with range extenders. I still love both of those cars, even the i3. It's so fun to drive in city. Hybrids are now the big winner. And I think linked to this is also Toyota.
Okay.
Toyota has to be a huge winner here because all of these bleeding heart liberal news organizations were writing hand-wringing stories about how Toyota has lost because they haven't invested enough in EVs, right? The New York Times wrote a piece like that in September. I think we wrote a piece like that too. But the truth is, electric vehicles, as we know from last week, are sitting on the lot for more than 50 days before they sell. ICE vehicles are sitting on the lot for 40 days before they sell. Hybrids only take 18 days to disappear. consumers are snapping them up, and big companies like Ford who were making these full-on like Sierra Club pushes into EVs have now said, well, you know what? That's maybe not such a great idea. It's going to cost us $4.5 billion this year, and losses are saying we're going to tilt towards hybrids. I think that is A, pragmatic of Ford, B, the smart move, because I feel like hybrids are a winner for the consumer, and C, Toyota turns out looking pretty smart in the end.
Yeah, you're right about that. Here's my question. Do you actually think people charge the battery of their hybrid? I know you do. But my whole thing is like, if you're
they don't have to be all plug-in hybrids.
Okay, so you're talking mild hybrid and plug-in.
Mild hybrids are huge winners as well.
Okay.
I mean, they're much bigger winners. In fact, I think the CEO of BMW North America was telling me, like, it's not about the plug-in hybrid, because it's not about the plug. For consumers who don't want full EVs, they don't want to mess with that.
No.
They don't want to install something new in the garage. They don't want to figure out how to, they don't want to wait in line at a charging station. The mild hybrid is enough, because you still are going to get, what do you get on a Prius in terms of miles per gallon?
80?
Yeah,
something
insane
crazy,
numbers.
78, 80. I do think you're totally right. We keep thinking maybe people will be a little altruistic or whatever. But I think there's been no movement at all in consumer readiness to inconvenience themselves when it comes to electric vehicles.
Yeah.
If it is at all inconvenient, they don't want it. They don't have the time. They don't have the energy. They don't have the patience. It's got to be exactly a 1-to-1 switch, or they don't want it.
By the way, according to topspeed.com, the 2023 Toyota Prius gets 57 miles per gallon combined.
Okay.
But that's amazing.
Yeah.
I drive cars that get
Combined.
13.
Okay, another winner, I'm going to say Rolls-Royce. Mostly because they are this staid, strong, and steady brand. This is the year that they first brought out their first electric car, the $500,000 Spectre.
Spectre is such a great name.
It's an awesome name. It's like a James Bond movie. I've driven it. I liked it.
Oh, really? I didn't know you'd driven it.
Oh, I went to Cape Town to drive it.
Oh, my goodness. I would give my right arm to drive it, because I'm left-handed. And because I'm sure it's an automatic.
Yeah, it is. It's more Rolls-Royce than Rolls-Royce. That's what I would say. Like, Rolls-Royce is the brand that makes itself all about smooth, silent ride like a ghost. Well, the Spectre, being electric, is exactly that. If there's any application for electric propulsion, it kind of, I can see it in Rolls-Royce. And actually, Rolls-Royce, the executives at Rolls-Royce had said 100 years ago that ultimately they believed their vehicles would go electric. And that's 100 years ago. So, Spectre, big fan. Rolls-Royce also this year brought out their $30 million drop tail. We touched on it a week or two ago. This business where they make literally one-off.
$30 million car.
Rolls-Royce.
And I think Jay-Z bought it, or
no,
Beyonce?
No.
No.
They won't. They
don't tell it?
No, the publicist sort of started a whispering campaign about that, but that's not accurate. So these multi-million dollar one-off bespoke creations that are basically designed from the ground up by ultra wealthy families is a really big business for Rolls-Royce, and they're doing multiple of them a year.
Yep.
So that's really good. Their CEO, Torsten Müller-Ötvös, just announced his retirement after 14 years. He really brought the company from the dark ages into now the world of EVs. He arrived before Ghost, before Cullinan, really modernized the company. And then just the fact that their order books are full for years to come. They hired more than 100 people in 2022 to basically help fill out their order books making these cars. They're just so strong and solid. And, while we see so much volatility, the people who are buying Rolls-Royces are not affected.
I don't disagree. It's one of my favorite brands of all time. One of my favorite cars of all time is the Ghost. I drove it in 2010 with Torsten.
Amazing.
And that was just around the island of Manhattan, but I already knew, this is the greatest luxury car.
Yes.
It's another one of those brands I probably will never be able to afford in my lifetime to buy my own new one.
I was going to say, you can get an older one for pretty cheap these days.
I know somebody who has one. And I am dying to drive the Spectre because I've read so many Car Magazine, that UK car magazine that's just called Car.
Sure.
They listed as, I think, the best electric car money can buy, like if money's no option.
Of course.
And obviously, because it is clearly the pinnacle of luxury, Rolls-Royce, and electric totally makes sense.
Yes.
Because what you want in that kind of car is boatloads of torque.
Yes.
And you want no sound, frankly.
Exactly. That's exactly right. Yeah, big fan.
All right, my final third winner is Tesla, which almost pains me to say because I'm annoyed by the company for so many reasons.
Oh, wow.
I think the design is like long in the tooth. I think the interiors are too Spartan. Elon Musk, he bought Twitter, which doesn't seem terribly intelligent to me, but especially not for $44 billion. But the stock has crushed it. I mean, crushed it. I wanted to buy Tesla when I first heard about the brand and they were coming to market, and Jason Harper gave me a ride in the Roadster, which I thought, which was I thought was so awesome.
Wow,
I had never driven. In the day. I'd never driven an electric car before, and
that was your first?
Yeah.
Wow.
And I can't even remember if I was. No, I think he let me drive it around a parking lot.
Cute.
Mainly, Jason drove me up to Bear Mountain and back. We barely made it back. I thought, man, I want to buy these shares. I can't buy shares because I'm an anchor on Bloomberg TV. A Bloomberg journalist can't do that.
We do have ethics.
I would have to disclose it. It would be a pain, and it really wouldn't work for a journalist. But if I had, I would be so loaded. And the shares are up again this year, more than double. And we're not even at the end of the year yet. It's an $820 billion company, which is like if you put Ford together with GM and then multiplied them by 8.
Yeah.
They'd still be smaller. I mean, even with the silliness that the Cybertruck is, it's a colossus. Tesla is a colossus.
Yeah. I just can't get excited about the cars. That's too bad. I mean, I
agree with you on that. I have two on my list that are from the investment perspective.
I was going to say that's like an on paper assessment.
Yeah. And I'll get to the other one, but you have your last winner.
Oh, I was just going to say, I think consumers won this year. I mean, this is the first year we have dozens of EVs to choose from. Every luxury automaker is all about customization and making the car your own and offering more options and more packages for details. And I just think consumers have more choices than ever. Cars are safer than ever. There are more opportunities to customize and make the car feel like your own. I mean, it's basically seamless now between your house, your phone, and your car. These are all huge wins.
Yes.
And this is a great time to be a consumer because you can get kind of whatever you want.
I get what you're saying.
Oh, no.
I disagree on a couple levels. Number one, affordability is out of control. Unaffordability.
Well, I didn't say cars were affordable.
No, I know, but consumers, what can you buy, right? If you're a regular person, in terms of new cars, even a Kia is a reach in terms of new cars for the average American, right? I mean, when for example, I drove the Nissan Ariya recently. I thought, man, this is a sweet car. And I went to configure one and I was already got over $60,000.
Yeah.
And the F-150 Lightning, I haven't driven yet. Actually, it's one of my losers, which I'll get to in a second. But it's so expensive that I don't think it would be the kind of choice my wife would approve. I mean, they're just out of control expensive. And it annoys me that they're moving away from the cars of my youth. There's no more muscle. Those are all dead. V8s are practically illegal. I mean, Ford started moving away from the V8s long ago, and it's just been heartbreaking for me when they took it out of the Raptor, and now it's an EcoBoost. That's tear jerking.
This might be a little controversial, but all of your points that you're just saying kind of support this philosophy that I personally have, which is I don't buy new cars.
Good point.
The bigger picture here is if you want to help save the world, for me, in my mind, don't buy new stuff.
I think you
don't
couldn't be
keep
more right.
consuming. Use what already exists, and that I'm such a big believer in use what's already out there. Don't create a need for people to manufacture more stuff.
No, you're 100% right. I agree, and I aim to stop buying new cars. I really do. In fact, my last car that I bought new was the Dodge Challenger, which is actually 13 or 14 years old, right?
It's almost vintage by now.
I know, and it's
a few more years.
But I wanted all the options that I wanted. No, it's 100% true. And there are a lot of cars. Porsche, for example. I mean, yeah, I'd love to have an ST.
Yeah, me too.
But
wouldn't we all?
I can't afford that, right?
Yeah.
And I wouldn't really want a base 911 right now. They're amazing.
Oh, interesting. Really?
Why? When I could buy,
is that an ego thing?
Because I could buy a 991 or I could buy a 964.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, for less money, I could buy a great condition 964.
You'd rather get an older one than a brand new.
Yeah.
And get a better one. Yeah.
Then you have
I get it.
Air-cooled motor. You have,
of course.
an old stick. You have the classic look. I mean, I love the look of the new ones. And they're amazing. I drove the Carrera T. Yeah, and I fell in love.
So cool.
But for less money, I could get a sweet old one, and that's even a better kind of keepsake. Porsche, by the way, kicks off my list of losers.
Oh, wow.
This is another
investment. Let me take a seat.
Investment-based. I mean, I don't know if it's fair, but the shares are losing. They're down 14% in 2023, which is stocks are on fire. Every other major car maker in the Western world, right? And in Asia. I'm not sure about Chinese publicly traded
well, it's
car
tough
maker,
to know.
If I look at Toyota, if I look at Renault, if I look at Honda, if I look at BMW, Mercedes, Volkswagen, former owner.
Nice accent.
If I look at Ford, General Motors, Stellantis, crushing it. Right? Second biggest winner. If I look at any other major car maker, they're all up for the year. Porsche shares are down 15%.
Why? What happened? What are you seeing?
I do not know. I think they just went out too expensive. So, Volkswagen did a great job of selling Porsche maybe at the exact right time. Yeah. They sold at the top.
Yeah.
And if you bought those shares, I mean, even if you got Syndicate in the IPO, you're just treading water.
I know that has been a bit of a disappointment because, they were thinking, hey, maybe we can close the gap with Ferrari. Back to my evergreen Ferrari as a winner, and it's only widening. And I do think Porsche is more susceptible to some of these factors like high interest rates than Ferrari buyers.
Of course,
for instance. And that hurts them. Hurts their margins.
I mean, Ferrari has 20% margins, right? Only Tesla can do that.
Rolls-Royce and Bentley have pretty healthy margins too, higher
but
than
they're
that.
owned, right?
Yeah.
Before Ferrari was spun out of Fiat, Porsche was the most profitable car maker in the world. That was our Bloomberg News tagline.
Mm-hmm.
We'd write Porsche, the most profitable car maker in the world. Then the whole Volkswagen fiasco happened. Then Tesla was invented, and now Ferrari. But at the time, their margins were the envy of everybody, and now they're good, but they're not.
The last time I checked, they were still the most profitable brand at VW. And the 911, of course, has the highest margin at Porsche, which is not for nothing. But that's a real bold statement that you're going to put them on that list. But,
Well, maybe that's not fair. Just from I figured we should throw in one from an investment perspective since it's Bloomberg. Of
course.
Yeah,
that's
obviously,
good. That's
I'm a Porsche fanboy.
I mean, you don't need a disclaimer.
Had a 911 and I loved it so much, and I wouldn't have sold it if I didn't have to.
They make car seats for
No. You know why I sold it? I bought my 911 here, and it was like my dream car. I had finally achieved one of my number one dreams, and then I had to move for work to Germany. I paid to ship it over there. It was like $4,000 or $5,000, and I thank goodness I did that because driving my 911 on the Autobahn for 5 years was
worth it.
Yeah. But then they moved me back here to New York, at the end of the pandemic, and the shipping costs had gone up fourfold. I called all around, and I was getting $20,000 quotes.
Oh my gosh!
I'm not.
This is on a freighter.
$70,000 car back to America for it was a 2014 991S. Loved it, but I'm not spending that much money to ship it back on a freighter.
No.
So I sold it there, and I bought a house
Did you
instead.
come up on the car selling it in Germany or no?
I lost a little bit.
Okay.
I got it used in 2014 for 90 grand, which was a great deal. And then I sold it for like 70 in Germany.
Okay. Well,
in euros.
Yeah.
So maybe 75 grand.
Sure. All right. Sorry for your loss.
Yeah, I loved it. Someday when the kids go to college, or graduate from college, or sometime after that. What's your loser?
The first one I'm going to say are just in general electric pickup trucks, because this was something, at least, for me, that I was kind of watching for the past few years, like, oh, this would really make sense. The best-selling vehicle in America for the past 4 decades has been a truck. It makes sense that, you could put them in fleets, electrify them, but it has not panned out that way. Exactly, yeah. It has not panned out that way at all. I mean, like you mentioned, we've got EVs sitting on lots. Ford and GM have walked back targets for production and sales, and it's just they're kind of hedging everything now.
The Cybertruck is like 4 years late,
the
and they've still only sold like 10.
They've delivered 10. Yeah, Jim Farley saying he wants to focus on hybrids. It's the first time that I'm like, oh, the future here is uncertain with respect to the electric pickup truck.
Now, I will say my second loser was the F-150 Lightning. So kind of the same thing. And for the same reasons. Mainly because, Ford's lost. They were going to lose $3 billion this year. Now they're going to lose $4.5 billion. Now maybe more on electric cars. They've cut their F-150 Lightning production in half from 3,200 a week to 1,600 a week.
Ouch.
I thought they had like a waiting list. But I will give the caveat that I have not driven the F-150 Lightning, nor have I driven any electric pickup. Have you?
Yes, I've driven the Ford.
And?
I thought it was great. And
because my buddy Paul Sweeney spent a week in the Lightning and he loved it. And he's a BMW fanboy. And he likes an M5. He likes the sports cars.
And he was a fan.
But he loved it. He didn't ever drive a pickup truck before in his life, and I don't think he'd ever driven an electric vehicle either. So he spent a week with this and he's, charging it at his golf club, but he said it was amazing. He loved it so much. He had no range anxiety. He had no problem keeping it charged. Like he was a convert. It was just too expensive.
Yeah, I think the expense is a huge thing. That they put all of this effort into electrifying something that's really big and really heavy, and you kind of have to charge a lot to earn your money back. And I don't get the sense that the guys going out to the work sites every day in Los Angeles want an electric vehicle.
What other loser have you got?
Okay, so my next loser is Lucid. Yeah, this has not been a good year for Lucid, which, initially had such fanfare and such a glow about it as, the second coming of a true Tesla competitor.
The top of the line Lucid Air has 1,234 horsepower.
Yeah, but that's the only car they make.
Yeah.
And the problem is they can't increase factory output or hike prices because there isn't sufficient demand for the one car they make.
Yeah.
They're losing money on every car they sell. They were initially valued at like $55 billion when the Saudis bought them, and now they're worth just over $5 billion. They're not cash flow positive. They've laid off 18% of their workforce this year. They're not meeting production numbers as it is. It's just kind of a mess.
Yeah.
And, I drove an Air a couple years ago, and the fabrication on it was not good. And I do tend to think products are very insightful about how a company is run, really. Because if the product, which is what consumers see, is not in a good place, how is everything behind the scenes where consumers can't see it? It's like this kitchen or the bathroom in a restaurant,
Especially, the top of the line Lucid Air costs, I think, $250,000.
Oh, I don't think it's. You think the top of the line one
costs $250,000?
Oh, to make. Sorry, I was going to say not the price.
No, the price. Yeah, no, the price goes from $75 to $250 to buy.
They're losing money on everyone.
I think they're actually losing more than $400,000 on each one. Well, if you average it out, I just saw a story on the Bloomberg highlighting that number. I think Joel Levington may have written it.
Joel's the best.
Yeah,
he's so smart. I love reading his stuff. Thanks, Joel, for all the info. But it's just
so they lose a ton, and to me, it's always been surprising because Alan Mullally, I think, was on the board and was part of the whole move into the SPAC, Churchill 4 or whatever. And he is a hero, right? Alan Mullally turned around Ford. I mean, he was a winner at Boeing, then a winner at Ford. I mean, I think he was on the board of Google. He's like an automotive or manufacturing and selling genius. And they still, I can't believe they whiffed on that.
No.
I have Dodge and Chrysler on my list of losers.
Oh, boy. Do tell.
I could have put also just muscle cars in general, because there's pretty much no more American muscle car, really. I could have put big inch, naturally aspirated V8s, because there's no more. This is the last year for the Challenger Charger, which had the 6.4 liter Hemi or the supercharged 6.2. Those are basically gone. You can still get the supercharged 6.2 in a TRX, but I think, and you can still get the 6.4 liter Hemi in a Jeep Grand Wagoneer. But those are different, Ram and Jeep are a different story. They're winners, huge winners, in fact. Dodge and Chrysler, after this year, the only models that they make are the Chrysler Pacifica, Dak Shepard's minivan.
Oh my gosh.
And
they still make that?
Yeah.
Wow. Oh no. No.
And Dodge makes the Hornet. Which is pretty cool.
Yeah.
But, it's not the same as a Challenger Hellcat or a Jeep Cherokee Trackhawk. I mean, those things
not quite.
Yeah. So these guys, if they don't turn it around, and they have an amazing motor, by the way. The Hurricane 510, their new straight six, is awesome. Like, I drove it in the Grand Wagoneer, and I thought it was a V8 for like 3 days before I looked at the.
Let me ask you this: do you think anybody under the age of 30 cares?
Probably not.
And why not? Probably
not. Well, the kids clearly don't like muscle cars. That's why the Camaro. This is, I think, the last year for the Camaro. Or next year. And anyway, the Camaro and the Mustang were becoming sports cars, and the Mustang definitely is a sports car now. So there's no more like cheap, big displacement, rear wheel drive, front engine cars. Like I said, they only get 13 miles a gallon, if you drive them right. So that's probably one of the big reasons. What else you got?
Okay, so my last one for today, the last loser, is Lotus. And this is sort of with the caveat that this could also be a one to watch for next year, because I do think that they have some good product. I drove the Emira. That was a fun sports car. It's kind of like a Cayman. And then the Elettre, their SUV. I haven't driven that yet, but I've seen that. I've seen some positive reviews. So this is kind of like, maybe they have good products, but they only have like 1.5 things that they're selling. Last year, they literally sold 180 cars in the United States, period. And yet they're opening, all of these new retail sites. They just opened one in Mayfair.
I was going to say, where's the dealership network? But so they do actually.
They opened one in China, and they're dropping money. They laid off like 200 people this year, so it's definitely not looking good. But they keep saying they've got a lot of things in the pipeline. So this is my loser / just keep your eye on it, because who knows?
It's
they do
fair
have
as a loser.
Yeah, they're owned by Geely. I was just going to say, so they've got some money.
Yeah, but
so
they're
maybe
Chinese.
we give them time.
I mean, I'm not saying that's a knock on the quality, the design,
not these
or the
days.
drivability.
Not these days at all.
But it is like EVs. It'll be unpopular in America.
Yeah.
One thing they could do is come back to F1. That would be sweet.
That would be really cool.
But unlikely. But terribly unlikely.
They need to make some more cars. Anyway, that's cool old brand. It's a shame they can't get it together.
Yeah, but you're right. Lotus is a loser. All right, that's all we have time for this week. But we are going to record another one next week, right?
Yes, we are.
All right, I am looking forward to that, Hannah.
Can't wait.
Until then, I'll be following you
And likewise.
On Instagram, what is your Hannah Elliott?
It's Hannah Elliott XO.
I'm Matt Miller, 1973. And what have you got coming up?
So the 911 ST review finally came out today, so you can read that online at Bloomberg.com. And then next week, I'm going to have a recap of the best cars that I drove in all of 2023. So we can talk about those and maybe some predictions for 2024.
That's excellent. I'm Matt Miller.
I'm Hannah Elliott, and this is Bloomberg.